Will flood insurance premiums and flood zone AE ever go down? It's a question we get from homeowners and real estate investors just like yourself every day. You're probably tired of insurance premiums going up, having a big impact on your wallet, profitability on your property. What if I told you there was a way that you could get flood insurance costs down, and maybe even significantly? Make sure to watch this entire video where we show you exactly what to do. Let's get started. But before we do, make sure to click below, subscribe, share it, and like this channel so that other people can find the same content valuable that you have. Hi, I'm Chris, the Flood Insurance Guru, and today we're talking about flood insurance costs or flood insurance premiums and flood zone AE ever going to go down. In order to understand that, we've got to understand what is flood zone AE. So let's head over the flood zone AE and show you what flood zone AE actually looks like to get a good understanding of it. All right, now we're standing in flood zone AE. Let's talk about what exactly is flood zone AE, what you need to understand about it before we can really ever talk about premiums going down. So flood zone AE, also called the special flood hazard area, or the 100-year floodplain, some people call it. Now, this is where traditionally some of your highest risk areas would be outside of coastal areas. Remember, the National Flood Insurance Program no longer uses flood zones and determining rates. They still use it from a regulatory standpoint. So if you're in flood zone AE and you have a mortgage, remember, flood insurance is going to be required. Really anything that begins with A. Can AE flood zone be changed? Yes, you can do this through a letter of map amendment process. So now that we have a little understanding of what flood zone AE is, let's talk about things that determine rates. You heard us mention a minute ago, flood zones are no longer used with the federal program. They're still used with private, but what else is used as a rate driver when we're talking about flood zone AE? Well, we're talking about things like distance to water. We're talking about the type of flooding. Is it river flooding? Is it coastal flooding? Is it flash flooding? You know, all these things are used as different factors in building a flood risk score that private companies, even the federal government now uses when determining your rates. Something else that's really big are things like replacement cost on buildings are a big rate driver that have never been used before Risk Rating 2.0. Now, they were used on the private side, but they weren't used on the federal government side except in V zones, which are coastal areas. Then there's elevation, your base flood elevation. Let's say that FEMA thinks that my flooding can come to 100 feet. This means that they're gonna set my base flood elevation at 100 feet. That means if my building sits below that 100 foot, it could have a bigger impact on my premium because my elevation is negative, especially when using my first floor height. Also, private companies look at this base flood elevation as well. This also tells you if your property could potentially qualify for a flood zone change, if you're above that base flood elevation. So that's how elevation has an impact. So we've talked about replacement costs. We've talked about elevation. We've talked about the type of flooding, the flooding frequency, and all these things are great on how rates are determined. But the reason you're watching this video is you want to know, hey, how can I bring these things down? Well, one thing that could potentially be brought down with the federal government side is something called the community rating system discount. This is when your community goes above and beyond what the federal government is requiring. And they put certain systems and processes in place. For example, if your base flood elevation is at 100 feet, but your community actually requires 102, this could be a measure that is used, it's called freeboarding, where they go above and beyond, could be used to help bring rates down because you're getting a certain discount in your community because they're setting standards much higher. Something we see every day. We also see sometimes where these discounts fall off. So that's one way your premiums could come down. Another way is your replacement cost on your property could go up. It could go down. You want to make sure you have that right. You know, the type of flooding, if flooding frequency increases or it decreases, these are things that could bring the premiums down as well. One of the biggest things that could bring your rates down when it comes to flood zone AE is in the guide we have below for you. In the description of this video is a guide to flood zone AE, and I'm about to tell you about it. And that is shopping your flood insurance with private companies every year. Remember, just because you have one private flood insurance policy does not mean the rates are going to be the same. In fact, we see some rates go from $400 to $4,000. It depends on the risk. It depends on the flood risk score that the carrier is using. You know, we use one at the Flood Insurance Guru on our website. You can also find that in the description of this video. You can also find our video on flood insurance pricing up here in the corner of the video, or the difference between the National Flood Insurance Program and private flood insurance. But these are some simple ways to bring those premiums down. Making sure you're shopping that every year, whether you're a real estate investor, you're a homeowner. You know, risks change. Base flood elevation changes when FEMA changes flood maps. All these things happen all the time. So these are some ways that you could bring your premiums down. So yes, premiums could go down in flood zone AE. In fact, your flood zone potentially could change when FEMA redoes maps to determine that you're no longer in a high risk area, which could have a big impact on your property value. So if you're ready to take the next steps to getting those premiums down, in the description of this video, click on the link to get a quote through our website, and we'd be happy to review this for you. As I said, you can also download our guides on flood zone AE, and we look forward to speaking to you in the next video. My name's Chris, the Flood Insurance Guru.